welcome everybody to this. I just have one question. What darn fool schedule is this? Everybody knows everybody here. I'm Bob Holliday, president of the Historical Society. There are lots and lots and lots of people to thank for this marker. Past, Fred, and Guy, and Marie, because we've got 3 of these markers specifically oriented to Native American sites, and without them, none of them could be done. Guy wrote the wording for us, and so I'm going to ask him to say a few words. Doug Alderson would visit Tallahassee. Doug actually has communicated with the Apalachee, and little did I know. So I'm going to ask him in just a second to read a couple of excerpts or communicate from them. Delatry here from the Florida Civil Rights Museum. God, who am I missing? Everybody that's here. Oh yeah, yes. Katie, Katie Mayor, our state archaeologist, and I would ask her to come say a few words, but I can't do that. So anyway, thank everyone for being here. All I will say about this marker before I turn it over first to Doug and then to Guy, and then we sort of pass the is, the American myth that we told ourselves for a couple of centuries was that when the Europeans got here in the 16th and 17th century, they ran into a wilderness, that it was sort of this Garden of Eden, nobody was here. And of course that's absurd and not true. I mean, I would just ask you to envision the slopes of this park going all the way from miles down there toward the capital and around and so forth, as being a very, very densely populated Native American culture. I mean, architecture and government and everything else. And of course, then the Spanish showed up, and it all turned around. And by the time, within 150 years, when DeSoto came through here, he brought people with him, writing accounts of this trip in their journals and so forth. And what they wrote about was how densely populated this was. 150 years later, when the Brits and the French and whoever come through here, what they're writing about is how deserted this was. I mean, how because of the passage of the Europeans, the Apalachee were all but. And that's why this is important, because this is an important cultural and governmental principle that was here before any European was ever here. So that's all I'm going to say, and I'm going to turn it over to Doug, and then turn it over to Guy, and then we'll pass the scissors around.
Hopefully the rain won't get my paper wet before I read it. So, back in the early 2000s, soon after Gilmer Bennett, the chief of the Apalachee and the Tamale Band in Louisiana, contacted Mission San Luis, he was like an ancestor that shows up alive. It's like somebody from the distant past shows up and they go, what? There's Apalachee left? It was just amazing. But I decided to write him a letter and send him a book called Between Two Rivers, which was about this land and people writing about their love for this land. I thought he'd appreciate that book. Gave him some tobacco, which is a very traditional offering for Native Americans throughout North America, still is. And he wrote me back pretty quick. And let me just read you his response. Since they couldn't be here, I thought I'd bring some of the Apalachee here, the current Apalachee. It was good to hear from someone who seems to look at things God gave us as something we must protect to survive. I have been fighting this battle alone for many years. You can bet that for everyone that wants to preserve our nature, that 10 don't care. I have watched people rape and rob this country of its trees, water, and air all my life. I have always wanted to do more, but we live by the golden rule. Whoever got the gold makes the rules. That's some of that humor. It takes a long time before we can see. By then, we're too old to make much difference. I will go to my grave fighting for our mother, the earth. I read your letter explaining of the way you see things. The book Between Two Rivers will be added to our library and probably will be read many times. I thank you. Let us know your views anytime. Thanks for the gifts. I can assure you that the thought will not be forgotten. So I thought that was a very sincere letter from someone that doesn't know me. And during the bicentennial, I've been helping visit Tallahassee, commemorate the bicentennial, and I was writing a blog for the website about the Apalachee. So I really reached out to the Apalachee. Right now they're in two different groups. They had a split, kind of the Bennett family and kind of an elected council. I wrote to both of them, tried to call them, and I did get a response from the elected council. So I'll read you his response, and I explained what we're doing with the bicentennial, how I wanted to use this quote in blogs, a book, whatever. So I thought this was very good as well. And his name is Lee Marchine, co-chief of the Apalachee Indians of the Tamale Band. I believe the Apalachee that have come back and set foot on our ancestral land has felt an instant connection of belonging to what was once home. From first-hand experience, I felt this as the living museum of Mission San Luis as I walked barefoot through the grounds. I have also felt the sadness and grief from the horrific events and loss of life that took place there so long ago. He's probably speaking of the 1704 raid from the English and the Muskogee that came down and killed, imprisoned, and drove the Apalachee and the Spanish away. I think of words such as crucial, vital, and substantial when talking about the importance of preserving and exploring our ancestral lands. Being able to reconstruct where our ancestors' council house once stood, or look at the difference in pottery from pre-mission to Spanish-occupied Apalachee is astounding. This helps our tribe to keep our history, our heritage, and our story alive. Knowing who you are by where you came from is one of the most important things a person can do for inner peace. Unfortunately, this seems to be lost in today's society. People wonder who they are and where they belong, but pay no heed to their own history. Well, that's why we're here, right? And that's why the society is existing. So let's give a round of applause for the Apalachee.
Thank you, Doug. Before I turn it over to God, I do not want to be remiss. I don't know whether any of you all have been down to Cascade and seen what they are doing on there, building the log cabin replica of the first Florida Capitol. Frank Terra Firma is here. He's in charge of that project. It is really, really amazing. They had originally hoped to have a ribbon cutting tomorrow, but the same darn fool scheduled it, so they put it off until October the 4th. And I will say, Frank, if you want to say something, that's fine. But Frank is looking for docents, and this thing is officially open. He is looking for people to volunteer once, maybe twice a week, whatever, just to come and be there, to sort of give the history of it for people and so forth. And I have volunteered, and of course, I would encourage anybody that has any time to do it.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. And just to echo what you just stated, so we're the first Florida Capitol replica is getting close to being finished. We postponed the ribbon cutting to next month, October the 4th. But once it is open, it's going to be like a little miniature museum. We're going to have historical panels. We had a gentleman making some carpentry that's periodic. And we want visitors to come in. We need folks, greeters or docents, if you will, to help. And we'll set some hours, but we're going to need some folks to help man it. So on the website, firstfloridacapital.org, firstfloridacapital.org, there's an opportunity for people to just say, hey, I want to help once a month, or I want to help once a week. Whatever it is, we want and we need that help. So please help spread the word. And we'd love for everyone here to say, yeah, I'll help once a week or once a month.
Every fourth grader in the district will be going through it.
Correct.
And hopefully outlying counties. Not that I'm in charge or anything, but I just think that's
But you're there every time.
Thank you, Frank. Thank both of you. I'm going to turn it over to Guy. Guy sort of got. I've never been quite clear whether you volunteered to do this language or whether you were told, Guy, you will do this language. But you did it, and it's wonderful language, and it's wonderful artist. The Guy printed this past.
Well, the language on this historic marker is not mine. It's the result of many people collaborating. I just had a little help in editing it. But what I'm about to read is all mine. At 4 that'd be nice. At 4 o'clock this morning, I was told that I would be speaking here. And so I sat down at my computer this morning and tried to
He was voluntold.
To express why I think it is that we're here to commemorate this. I will try and speak loudly so you can hear me over the traffic. We are here to dedicate this historical marker to the memory of Anhaica as part of the commemoration of the 200th anniversary of our forebearers' choosing of this place, which we call Tallahassee, as the capital of the newly established territory of Florida in 1824. It was deemed appropriate that we spotlight the history of Anhaica as part of Tallahassee's bicentennial, because long before the choosing of Tallahassee as Florida's capital, this place was also chosen as the principal village of the Apalachee. It was the ancestors of the Apalachee who built the mounds at Lake Jackson some 800 years ago, and from which their chiefly elite exacted tribute from their peoples and used their strength and numbers to assert control of all the lands between the Gulf of Mexico and South Georgia, stretching from the Osceola to the Apalachicola rivers. It was the Apalachee that the early Spanish explorers encountered when they passed through this region in their searches for gold and other valuables in the hopes of attaining riches from La Florida as they had in their conquests of the Aztec and Inca peoples. But there was no gold or silver to be had here. The richness of this land lay in its fertile soils, which made the land of the Apalachee crucial for providing corn and other crops to the Spanish when they later asserted hegemony over the Apalachee and claimed Florida as the property of Spain. Despite the sufferings that the Apalachee endured at the hands of the Spanish, brought on by old world diseases, forced labor, and the repression of their native beliefs, they managed to endure in their homeland until the Spanish missions of La Florida were decimated by slave raids carried out by the English colonists and their Muskogee Creek allies in the early 1700s. When it was realized that the Spanish could not protect them from these depredations, the remaining Apalachee moved elsewhere. This created the opportunity for Muskogee Creek peoples to move into the Red Hills of North Florida, where the Apalachee once ruled. And like the Apalachee before them, the Muskogee Creek and their Seminole descendants were later driven out by the white Americans who saw the opportunities of making Florida part of the nascent United States as it began its spread westward. With the acquisition of Florida from Spain, it was deemed necessary to choose a capital that was suitably located between St. Augustine and Pensacola, the two principal communities in this newly acquired territory. And recognizing the advantages of this place where we now stand, the person selected to find a new principal town from which to govern, like the Apalachee did centuries earlier, chose Anhaica to be that place. But in doing so, adopted the Muskegean place name of Tallahassee, variously translated as meaning Old Town or Old Fields. We are hopeful with the placement of this historical marker that this place shall also be long remembered as the Anhaica of the Apalachee.
All right, ladies got the scissors? Here are the scissors. Who wants to come? Everybody make a mad rush. Everybody want to take a snip and cut this thing off? Come on, don't be shy. Come on, Katie. Yeah, come on. Guy, Marie, come on, come on, come on. Who's on our board? Get up there, board member.
Fred, Jesse.
Yeah.
Oh, I get to cut a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Take a cut.
Oh, I didn't. I thought I was just cutting a little bit.
You want to keep cutting or pass it on?
We'll take a stand. We'll take a stand.
There you go. There you go. There it is. Thank you everyone for coming out. I mean, it will rain all weekend, probably worse than this. So, but we've got 2 more of these to go, and 2 more Native American sites to go, and 7 more markers altogether to go. So you will all be summoned back as these things come in one at a time from the manufacturers. But thank you. Everybody go home, get dry. Don't catch